January 10th. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Present.
Ms. Casa Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes,
Present.
Ms. Perez,
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tumidor is absent, and Mr. Zogby is absent. Madam President, you have enough members to conduct business.
Thank you. If we could please have the invocation.
Dear Lord, we pray for the city council and the agenda set before them today. Please guide them in benefit of those who live and work in the city of Hialeah. Amen.
Amen. All right. The Pledge of Allegiance, please led by our Vice President Garcia Robes.
Everyone, please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could please have the meeting guidelines read.
The following guidelines have been established by the city council. All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephones or other similar electronic devices in the council chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via the web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the city council on any item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to 1 appearance before the city council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page. Members of the public may hear the meeting live through telephonic conferencing using any telephone or cellular phone service. A smart device or computer are not necessary to participate in the meeting if you join by phone. All persons participating via the web platform will be muted during the meeting until called upon to be heard. Participation through Zoom requires a computer or smart mobile device with a microphone and web camera. The participant may elect to participate in the meeting using audio only or appear both through audio and video. The video function of all participants appearing through video will be turned off until called upon to be heard.
Thank you so much. We have some presentations tonight, and it's by our council member Rodriguez, so I will let him open it up.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm pretty proud of this presentation certificate. So good evening today. We're recognizing Manny Reyes III, a young man raised here in Hialeah. He has overcome much adversity, which is why it seemed right to present him with a certificate of appreciation of achievements. He is a Hialeah born and raised. He was starting QB for Barbara Goldman. He always wanted to play football and continue his football career. He was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which he lost over 30 pounds and overcame it. In 2020, he was also a Hialeah High starting quarterback, which he graduated in 2021. He was signed to a full scholarship. Unfortunately, he was involved in a horrific car accident, and he overcame that. In 2022, he was a starting QB for Atlantis University, which over 20 touchdowns in the college. Actually, it was your longest pass too, right? It's awesome. And he was also the MVP for that season. So the bottom line, Manny, a kid from Hialeah never give up despite all the obstacles thrown at him. No one believed in him. Actually, your dad believed in you. And today he's a starting QB for a college with multiple college offers. So congratulations, his father. Woo! Manny Sr., let's please come up here. I know his father wanted to say a couple things. And then we're all gonna go down there. Manny, you wanna say something? Yeah. Yes, right there, yeah.
Yes.
First of all, thank you. Happy New Year to all of you. First thing I want to say is even more important than this. I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I'll give a prayer to Mark Gomez and that little fighter he's got right now.
Yes.
And I just want to say that
Yes.
you know, that's some tough stuff, and that little girl's fighting. So just want to say that right off the bat. She's gonna be all right. Okay. So I just wanted to say a shout out to Mark Gomez. Yeah, it's tough. Your parents, it hits you harder. Like this kid who had Crohn's disease, and he got tested for cancerous growths and everything. We were on ABC at one time on the news because he overcame it. And it was hard. It was hard. A lot of tears, a lot of, rough days. And he was, thank God, goodness, he didn't get cancer. And he, with medication, he overcame the Crohn's disease. I gave this little kid a football a long time ago, and I saw him one day standing in front of the TV, holding his hands like this. Said, "Man, you look like Tom Brady," which was his favorite quarterback of all time. And then this is our 15th year together. I was his first head coach. I've guided him through. Yeah, I've opened a lot of doors for him, but I'm still on earth. I'm his father. I'm his first agent. I'm his first manager. I'm his dad. I'm his best friend. Why not? You know what I mean? And I'm gonna continue to as long as I'm here. Hialeah High, he had a COVID shortened season. He almost lost his senior season. He got through, led them to the playoffs. So many things. Chris Chambers, Miami Dolphins signed him to a full scholarship. Then when he was let go, we transferred to Atlantis University, taking a different route. Everybody wants to play for Miami, Alabama, Auburn, whatever, but no. Sometimes you got to take a different route, and he's doing it. He's not giving up. Got into a horrific car accident, and he overcame that. His clavicle was broken. The bottom line is he's not going to give up. He has trouble gaining weight. That's his only problem. The kid could throw every throw. He's going to get his associate's degree. One more year at Atlantis University, new university. Why did we go there? Because I said, let's do something different. Went there and broke every record, passing record there is. Of course, the university's in the second year. So, but he did it all. And at the end of the year, he's going to get his associate's degree in business. And I'm very proud of that. And he's headed off to Vanderbilt University.
All right.
And thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Go ahead.
Just talking about the past and stuff. I just want to talk about the future. I want to always promise for the city of Hialeah that I will always show out for Hialeah and always represent Hialeah in anything that I do. When I make it big in my career, making it now in the future, Hialeah will always be in me, always. He grew up here. I grew up here. My grandpa grew up here. Hialeah is the best city known to man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Council Rodriguez, for bringing this up. And the certificate, it means a lot more to have your dad here, representative showing emotion. It brings us a lot of joy every time that we could nominate or recognize youth in the community that represents us in a good capacity. So thank you for doing that. We're very proud of you. Let's go down and take a picture with him.
You can't make these things up.
No. All right, we're moving on to our comments and questions. Is there anyone here in council chambers or anyone online that would like to have any comments or questions?
Ma'am, for
Anyone
the
online?
record, Councilman Tundidor is present.
Okay.
Chris, you want to say something? Yeah, yeah. Did you-
Good evening,
Good evening.
ladies and gentlemen of the council.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Christopher Monzon. My address is 7540 West 20th Avenue, Hialeah, Florida.
Thank you.
And I'm here today to thank each and every one of you, my governing body of my great city of Hialeah, for the support that you rendered me back in October 23rd, when I was viciously and brutally attacked. And it was something that really turned my world upside down. But I must say that when you guys came to support me, it made all the difference at that moment in my life. It made all the difference at that point. And I hope that you had a wonderful Christmas and have a great 2023. And I just have to, give my support, my thanks, and my gratitude to each and every one of you. I am so grateful to have such a wonderful governing body that cares about its residents, such as each and every one of you. And I could not ask for a better city to live in with better people to represent me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christopher. We're happy to see you here, healthy and doing well. Okay, we're moving on. Anybody else for any comments or questions? All right. Any announcements or amendments to the correction of the agenda?
Consent items M and N have been added to the agenda. Items PZ1, PZ9, and LU3 are postponed until January 24th, 2023. And a declaration of restrictions has been added to the backup of item PZ6.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. Any council members would like to pull any items? I would like to, if there's nobody. Anyone? No item? I would like to pull item L. Anyone else? Can we vote on the agenda?
Second.
So I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Did you want to speak on an item, ma'am? Oh, okay. All right. We have a motion by Ms. Casals Munoz and we have a second by Ms. Garcia Robles.
Mr. Tundidor? Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz? Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes,
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
The consent agenda has passed except item L.
thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniela Tamayo. I'm representing the Grants and Human Services Department.
Thank you. Can you give your address for the record?
Yes, we moved, sorry.
501?
501 Palm Avenue.
All right, thank you. Okay, so my question is, this is part of the. Go ahead.
Request permission to recapture the unexpended state housing initiatives partnership SHIP program funds for the following three homeowner occupied rehabilitation projects. Number one, City of Hialeah Resolution Number 2021-053, awarded $100,000 to Caridad Alfonso, of which $30,135.96 were expended, leaving $69,864.04 for recapture. Number two, City of Hialeah Resolution Number 2021-64, awarded $100,000 to Miriam Savatier, of which $40,462 were expended, leaving $59,538 for recapture. Number three, City of Hialeah Resolution Number 2021-132, awarded Migdalia Ortiz $100,000, of which $300 were expended since the residents secured other means to fund the rehabilitation, leaving $99,700 for recapture, for a total cumulative amount of $229,102.04 to be utilized to enable the city to service additional applicants who have applied for assistance.
Thank you. My question is more generic of the actual SHIP program. So when these funds go back into the actual account, What's now the timeline on that program? Do we have a deadline? Do we have to spend it by a certain time?
Yeah, so we have 3 years to spend any funding from when we get them. So right now, we're gonna have 3 years to spend this money. It goes back into the pool,
So it goes back
into
into,
the main
it
pool.
resets.
Yeah,
Okay,
because we don't actually spend the money, we just commit it. So we're just like
okay, okay.
on committing it.
So is this something that we're gonna open?
It's currently open. We're accepting applications right now
Mhm.
for the first-time homebuyer program, rehab, and we've been receiving applications and we're just following up.
So how active would you say this SHIP program is? I just want to see the popularity within the community. Do
Oh,
people? Yeah.
we've been receiving applications. It's just that it's very tedious with the requirements, so it takes a little while to fully complete the application. We have
Okay.
to do income certifications, and so it takes a little while, but we've been receiving a lot of applications.
So as of right now, is that the only funds we have left? If we add?
No,
the-
no.
No, the
No,
recaptured?
We
We
have
still have-
our original, the ones that we received, the allocation that we received for the fiscal year 2022.
Mhm.
And we're finalizing a reconciliation to confirm how much we have in total. But we have, including this, around 1 million something confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
that's
have-
good. So
yeah,
we still have a capacity to help.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, that was my main question. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're recognized?
I'm curious as to number 3, that they were awarded $100,000 and that they found monies elsewhere and we only gave them 300. Is that something that happens often? Why
They probably
would
went
that happen?
Through the
Well,
insurance, probably, right?
Sometimes because we have to put a lien on the property, so people don't want to have that in their record. So they say, oh, no, I don't want to participate in the program anymore. But when we spend those $300 is probably when we did like a record search or something that is tied to the project and we have to include it.
And you put a lien on the property for how long?
Well, they have to reside in the property for 15 years.
You have to reside for 15 years.
Yeah, and the lien is there. If they
Okay,
complete
yeah.
all the regulations, then we remove the lien.
Right. So if they sell the property or they move with it, before the 15 years, then they have to pay off the
Correct.
debt.
Whatever we spent.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
No, that's it.
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Garcia Robles.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor. Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Moving on to administrative items. We're on item 10A.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending the Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98 entitled Zoning, Article 6, Supplementary District Regulations, Division 11, Landscaping, amending and retitling Section 98-2231 Purpose, Section 98-2232 Landscaping Requirement, Section 98-2233 Irrigation, and Section 98-2234 Landscaping and Irrigation Certification and Recertification for residential office, commercial, industrial properties, and multifamily developments, and creating sections 98-2235, waiver of minimum landscape requirements, landscape mitigation, section 98-2236, renovation and remodeling of residential office, multiple family, commercial, and industrial developments, supplemental landscaping, and section 98-2237, fees. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This is second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on the item? Is there anyone online?
No, ma'am.
All right, I have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez.
Second.
I have a second by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor. Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Item 10B.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending Chapter 46 entitled Historical Preservation of the Code of Ordinances, and in particular revising Hialeah Code Section 46-40 entitled Powers and Duties to prohibit the naming of city buildings, facilities, parks, rights of way, and other city properties if an elected official or relative was arrested. repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, I know that this is going to be amended. I don't know if you would like to speak on what the changes would be.
And it's very simple. We're gonna strip out the portion that speaks to relative
Thank you.
and arrested. It should read, and the amendment, I guess, will reflect that if an elected official has been convicted. And we'll limit it to that, and we'll remove the relative and the arrest part out, because you can be arrested and not.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for clarifying that and for making those amendments. Do we have a motion on the item? It's a second reading. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the item before I move on? Anyone online? Yes, go ahead.
I wasn't here last time when it was discussed, so I just wanted to say 2 words. First of all, the joke was well received. I haven't been arrested, or none of my family members. I guess my concern is, so currently the process, right, when we go ahead and vet someone that's, going through this process of getting something named, obviously, we do some due diligence, I'm assuming, but we sort of treat these cases on a case-by-case basis, and, it'll come up as a resolution to go ahead and appoint. So I guess my question is sort of, not just necessarily with this ordinance, but the other sort of things that are within the actual code is, why do we sort of prevent ourselves from naming someone? In the sense that if there was somebody that did have an arrest record or a conviction record, and that was part of their package or what have you, at the moment in time that comes up before the council, we'd had the opportunity to discuss and see if it's appropriate. But I think as of right, just saying, well, we don't want this person to even be in the process. I think, maybe in 99% of the cases, we're saying, hey, we don't want to name properties or anything in Hialeah after somebody that's been convicted of a crime. But there is that 1% of someone who maybe overtook a great adversity. I was actually reading a story quite recently of somebody who had been convicted of a crime, and they'd gotten out, and sort of that 1 in a million where they were able to turn their life around, became an attorney, started practicing law, is actually a public defender, and we wouldn't be able to name anything after that if this were to pass. So I'm not saying that I obviously am arguing for people that are convicted of crimes or anything like that to be named, but I just think we're sort of auto-limiting ourselves in sort of a weird basis, because either way, we would be able to say no to that person as their name came up, or to our discretion or our future council's discretion, say yes if we felt that person should get something named. So, I mean, not just with this conviction, but with some of the other things, I guess my question is, what's the need? That's my apprehension on this. Again, I wasn't here for first reading. I would have brought it up then, but that's just my take on it.
If I may ask this question, maybe the mayor or Madam Attorney could clarify. What is the procedure of other municipalities in this kind of ordinance? Do they have that small print written in there that that there's, this is kind of.
I mean, it's your prerogative. You don't necessarily have to follow a model ordinance to engage in decision-making over what this administration or council do, criteria or standards in order to make a decision to honor somebody with the naming.
But it's not typical protocol to, wouldn't we say that that's something that?
Yes, you would think, but what's happened legislative bodies have been burned before for naming a street after someone and then finding out that person had been convicted,
Right.
or finding out that person's been arrested. It's been an embarrassment in many occasions. Look, the way I see this is pretty very simple. I mean, notwithstanding the unicorn situation that somebody got arrested and then all of a sudden they found the cure to cancer, in many cases, This would pretty much eliminate the embarrassment of the city council having to go through a situation where somebody is pressuring to name a street or a building after someone that's been convicted for whatever purpose they may feel is of merit. The question is very simple. Does the city of Hialeah want to be naming streets and buildings after people that have been convicted? I mean, it's pretty simple, straightforward. If you're don't have an issue with it, then you don't have to vote for this. You kill it. But I personally believe that, I don't see a lot of situations throughout the county, quite honestly, where things are being named after folks that have been convicted. And if they have been, they've been either peeled back very quickly after a lot of embarrassment, quite honestly, for elected officials that have supported items without me.
Mhm.
Is there a due diligence? Yes. Is it foolproof? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So in the past, when we've named streets, we've had to run a background check or is that not part of the process?
I've never
We don't,
done it.
Right.
The one thing that we did was, while I've been here, is that we named a park after Senator Casas,
Mhm.
which already had his name on that park, and it was removed because a previous council felt it was important not to name anything after somebody that was alive.
Yeah.
That was easily researched. He was alive. Now, he had passed away,
Yeah.
and it was important, I think, to put the name back of the park. But again, I just think it would avoid members of this council to sit in an uncomfortable situation when somebody's sitting across the dais
Person,
asking you to name something when they know full well that that loved one that they'd like something named after, whether it's a building or a street, whatever it could be, that we have the ability to name, that person's been convicted. You'll be in an embarrassing situation if then you have to say no to that person. Now, you could always entertain as an amendment, and maybe part of the ordinance, an ability to waive something with the majority, 9 of the 7
We have
votes
that
on the
anyways.
board. Absolutely, for that unicorn situation of the person that did something fantastic and later on in life. They exist, no doubt about it. But I would just caution.
yeah.
And I'm
Okay.
open to something like that, that would give the ability to the council, if they wanted to.
Okay, I'm
Through the
gonna open
Oh,
for a
sorry.
second reading.
Oh,
Since
sorry,
it's a
you're
second reading and public hearing, if there's anyone in council chamber or anyone online that would like to speak on the item, and then I'll recognize you.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, you may approach. Just give your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Fernie Coppell, 3760 East Sixth Avenue, Hialeah.
Welcome, Franny.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I first of all, I chair the Historic Preservation Board, and I wanted to let you guys know that those 2 changes were 2 changes that I was coming here today to plead with you guys to please make. Those are very important changes that make a big difference in how people get their streets and code designations passed. And part of the reason for that was because there is an application that has been sitting around for 2 years now for Andy Andres Mejides, which was the first Hispanic council president for this board. And it seems to be stuck, not getting any responses as to where that's at. And this would have affected that moving forward. So I greatly appreciate that you guys made that change and made that decision. And job well done, guys. Thank you very much. I'm glad that the Historic Preservation Board is going to be working hand in hand in tandem with you guys on these type of things. Thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for sitting on our board. We appreciate your help that you.
Absolutely.
Do we have anybody else on council chambers that would like to speak or anyone online? Councilwoman, recognized?
Well, he just threw me off because now I'm going back to see the history as to why, and I just realized why it's sitting for a while. So one of the things that I always think when you see a name, and I'm a historian, I at heart, I'm not by all means a historian for any other means except in my heart. But whenever I go anywhere and I see a street named after something, the first thing I do is Google and see what happened, why was it named, and I do a little quick research and then say, oh, let me go find out a little bit more about it.
I hope you do that when you get to your destination, not while you're driving.
Honey, I do that. I do that when I get back to the room. But I love to see why things are named. And one of the things that I would tell my kids all the time when we were driving is look up why that name. Oh, why is that this? Why is that that? And it would be very sad if my kids were looking, they go, well, he got arrested and he was in jail and that's it, because Google gives you the first things that everybody looks up. So I think it would be an embarrassment for us. And I know that those things happen. Trust me, I have a crazy family, so I get that. But I think that if somebody made a mistake and paid his dues and came back, I think the last thing on that person's mind, I would think, would be, let's name something to cause attention to me. If I'm going to do something good with it, let him be the one that does something, not for the most part strangers, because I think a lot of times when we name something for somebody, it's somebody we didn't know maybe. Question as to why Andy Mejides hasn't been given his due recognition for whatever reason, but you do a little bit of research, and I think that's just doing due diligence, and you don't have to explain anything later on in life, and it makes it easier, because we don't have to name anything after anybody's name. We're doing this because there's people that should be recognized. So I don't have a problem leaving it in the manner that it is, and I am very glad that you removed relatives. I'm very glad that you remove relatives, because you can't control anybody other than yourself. Stop laughing.
Absolutely. Is there any other council discussion on any of the amendments on this item,
Through the chair.
or you're recognized?
So my clarification is, when we're saying the word convicted, is that going to apply specifically to felony convictions or misdemeanor convictions? Like I got convicted of stealing a lollipop. Does that count, right? Like where do we draw the line of conviction?
Good point.
Madam Attorney,
Conviction is a conviction. It's right now
can you pull the
proposed-
microphones down?
It's right now proposed to be in the broadest sense of any local, state, or federal law. Local law would generally be just a misdemeanor. So you're looking at either a felony or a misdemeanor.
Fernie, you had something you wanted to say, Fernie? I see you. Come to the microphone.
The way that the ordinance is written, it's specifically for elected officials. That doesn't mean that person down the street who was
Yes.
convicted or arrested can't get
Yes.
it. So it needs to, sorry, the third thing I wanted to fix. Ensure that it's not just for elected, officials, but it's for anyone. Because right now, Joe Schmo
Right.
could get it done, even if they've done awesome things. That was, thank you.
So his recommendation was to not just make it elected officials, to make it for any naming. Ladies and gentlemen,
I do.
So
we okay with that,
through-
with that amendment?
through the chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
So technically, if we only do elected officials, we wouldn't be able to name like street after Mandela, for example, because he's somebody that was elected, convicted. That would be the
Nelson
unicorn.
Mandela?
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna be naming here in Hialeah especially. So,
I think we're going into, we're spinning our wheels for something that's not really that important. I think we either do a waiver or we just don't do anything. It's
Through the
my
chair?
opinion.
yes, you're recognized.
Do we have the right, if the ordinance is one way and the body has a 5 to 7 vote on anything, can we make exceptions to any ordinance?
Not unless it's provided for in the ordinance.
Only if
ma'am.
it's provided.
So you have to make small print. A section that says the majority, a 5 vote.
I'm not in favor of naming
Let's do
things.
this. Let's do this. Because this is very reminiscent of sometimes conversations we had in the county, like for example, on the UDB, right? You can't expand the UDB unless you have a certain amount of votes, right? So let me, I hear your concerns, and we're gonna come back with something that may be able to address and still give the flexibility to the board in the future if you want to go down that route, okay? So we'll, I guess we'll table the item for now, and then allow me to come back at the next council meeting with an amended item. I think we'll address all these issues, so we're not confused on what we're actually amending, okay?
Okay, do we have a
Okay.
motion with
Motion
tabling
to
the
table.
item? Second. So I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz, and I have a second by Councilwoman Garcia Robles.
Are we tabling until the next city council meeting?
You
I say yeah.
motioned,
Yes.
Who made the second? I'm sorry.
Garcia Robles.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor, Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is tabled until January
January.
24th, 2023.
Perfect, thank you. All right, moving on to item 10C, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending Chapter 2 entitled Administration, Article 3 entitled Boards, Commissions, and Committees by creating Division 10 Long-Term Care Oversight Committee, Sections 2-763 Established, 2-764 Composition and Term of Service, 2-765 Duties and Powers, and 2-766 Meetings, Quorum, and Voting, Attendance Requirements, Rules of Procedures, Minutes, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Councilman Tundidor,
Motion.
you're recognized. It's, you
Through
can't.
the
motion.
chair?
It's a second reading and public hearing, so
Okay.
we have to open the item. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to discuss this item? Councilwoman, you're recognized.
Oh, no, I was gonna say that it was a second reading, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll second. Emotion.
We have a motion by Councilman Tundidor, and I have a second by Councilwoman Garcia Robles.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tumidor, Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10D.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending Chapter 58 entitled Offenses by creating Article 1A entitled Election Protection and Integrity, Sections 58-15 Voting Protection of Persons the Vote of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hialeah, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Councilman Calvo, this is your item.
Yep.
It's on first reading.
Through the chair. So, yeah, so, you know, I proposed this back in November, so it's been a while. Obviously, this was in the immediate aftermath of the attack against Chris. And I guess the idea, the intent from the beginning is to sort of do two things. So first off, obviously as a body, as a matter of normative policy, say, you know, this is not something that we want in our town. This is definitely not the kind of city that we are, the culture that we espouse. And this kind of goes in line with very similar policies that were actually passed by Governor DeSantis to sort of crack down on sort of this violence surrounding elections, not only in our state, but in our country, generally speaking. So that is sort of goal number one. And then goal number two is, I guess, to sort of discuss this idea of, you know, elections, I guess, moving forward, right, in our city, and creating, I guess, a platform for that discussion. So I've received a quite amount of feedback on this ordinance from some of the constituents. And one of the particular events that was brought to my attention, and, you know, it doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with this, but it's of note, is the 2019 arrest of Millie Herrera, for example, who was arrested for trespass in one of our city properties, what have you. Sort of the ramifications on, I think the main objective is protecting free speech, protecting democracy, and obviously protecting our election. And so that's why it's titled sort of Election Protection and Integrity. And so what you see before today is sort of a 3-month work product that still needs more work, believe it or not. But essentially, it would say, well, let's say, somebody committed a battery on another person and, beat them up for political reasons during a political activity, be that a election day site, a early voting site, political event, what have you. In addition to any penalties that may already and do already exist at the state level through Governor DeSantis's law and executive orders, is that in addition to those penalties and the realities of what criminal justice is in our country, and that even though you're guilty of something, you get arrested, you might not necessarily face a punishment. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. That we have another avenue, another recourse that as a city, we can sort of go after the person that committed that crime in our eyes, which is, for example, if Christopher today wanted to go ahead and sue the people that attacked him in civil court for battery, he definitely can do that. But if he doesn't have the funds to pay for an attorney or he doesn't have the legal knowledge to do so, then maybe something doesn't happen. And so as a city, we would, through this ordinance, be able to intervene and sort of assess the maximum penalty that we can assess under our charters, which is up to $500. So that is the intent. There's a little bit of language here that I personally am not necessarily on board with, but I would open it up to the discussion, and maybe you all feel different, which is to not only limit it to the battery, but to also include assault scenarios. So an assault, as described here, would be sort of a verbal threat, but coupled with that verbal threat, there needs to be some sort of ability to act on the threat. So what we were kind of discussing was, well, if I said I'm going to hit you with a baseball bat, I kind of would need the bat in my hand, but that would be enough potentially under this ordinance to go after that person and institute a civil penalty. So that's what you have before you today. I guess the two questions that I have as I present this, and I'd like the input of the body, is one, what is the appetite for including verbal sort of assault scenarios, and the implications that it could be too much of a gray line, and that's how I feel about it. And the second big question that I have for my colleagues is, do we want to maybe have some sort of more long-term, or at least for the next couple of months, discuss sort of some of our election policies that are currently on the books, election ordinances that might need updating. So for instance, one that just off the top of my head is our sign ordinance. So you can only have a sign that's 2 feet by the 4 feet, and you pay the sign bond, which is $150. There's really no penalty if you violate it, except they keep the $150, so everybody violates it. And I think I'm the only person that got my sign bond back.
No, me too.
You got it? Okay, we got
I
two.
picked up all my signs.
So maybe, do we start enforcing these things, or maybe we just say, hey, let's take them off the books and free for all with the signs. I am particularly interested in looking at sort of this, how we treat some of our public facilities, whether that is city-owned properties of housing, or how we treat, I don't know, JFK activities. I think there's a space here to talk about some of these things and update them. Whether we think they're good as is and just need to be strengthened, or we think they're bad and they need to be repealed. I think it's an important discussion to be had everywhere in our country, but let's have it here and let's affect what we can locally. So those are the two big questions I present to you. I'm all ears. I really don't want to sway this one way or another. I'd like to hear your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Calvo. Do we have any feedback on the ties?
Through the chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
I actually asked Marbelis when we did the sign bond, and I remember that the reason that we limited the signs is because, I don't know if anybody was here around in the early 80s, late 70s, the signs were like the whole corners, houses that you couldn't see when you were getting to the stop sign. You couldn't look over because The sign was right on the corner. So they were huge. They were probably, I don't even know, but I lived on Palm Avenue in the corner and we couldn't see outside of our house because the sign was so large in front of it. So I was very pleasantly surprised when we were able to shrink the sizes and they're easier to put up. And if case of a hurricane or whatnot, the other ones were 2x4s all the time and 4x4s and it was a little insane. So I do like the fact that we have smaller signs. I also like that we have a bond. But my interpretation when we passed the ordinance of the bond was that if you didn't pick up your signs, that you had the right for the city to get the money and pick up the signs. Then I was informed, rightly so, so that's why she's an attorney and I'm not, that you can't go into private property and pick up signs if it's on a private fence and it's on a private property. So I understand that as well, and you can't do that with commercial or residential. So that puts a damper on things of the idea of what the bond was. $150, I don't think is a big difference. I think people give the $150 just to get over it and you could keep it. I don't care, do with whatever you want with the signs and nobody follows up. Marbeli did also make a comment to me that we could fine the house that the sign is on because they're having a sign that isn't permitted, but that would be ridiculous and we would spend more time following up on that. I do think that a lot of the laws that we have are antiquated, and I think looking into them doesn't hurt at all. We could have discussions about them. But I was very surprised at I thought that the reason that we had put the bond is so we could go and pick them up and throw up everybody's signs away. And that wasn't the reason, and that would have been perfect. But I understand the logistics of it and the rule of law. So I have no problem looking into it. I think that a lot of things are crazy. I think people break laws all the time. I don't think that there's anything that we could do. I had a question during the elections to the elections department of how they were collecting absentee ballots. And they said, well, this is what we're doing because the integrity of the fact that you may have the ability to vote is so much more important than the actual law that prohibits you from doing what you're doing right now. So those are very, very difficult things to navigate through, especially when you're in the middle of an election. So I have no issues looking into that, and we could do that. I don't think in the middle of a council meeting, maybe we could do a workshop and talk about the laws of that we have in the city, but we have to follow county laws and state laws as we see that the state law supersedes everybody else's. So that's my take on that.
So as part of the campaign training, we have to take a training when you're campaigning.
Let's say yes.
You have to. Yeah,
Okay,
you have to
yeah,
know
I
what
know.
the rules
I'm
are. So that's
joking, yes. But that doesn't matter. That just because you take the training, nobody listens.
well, that's such
I
is
know.
life.
Correct.
Such is
correct. You're
life.
right.
And I think that the way that it's written, I'm okay with just with not including the assault. I think that it gets complicated when you get into that he said, she said, and it becomes very heated. Fantastic. Thank you. I started now. So I think including assault, I wouldn't be for that. I mean, including the amendment that you would like, I think the way it's written as is fine. The range of the citation though, I don't know if the 500 or if there's a first offense, a second offense. What do you think? Chief, are you okay with that? What do you suggest? Oh, yeah, okay. Right. So
So that's the maximum penalty that you can enforce by the charter.
what
I
is,
think that under our code enforcement procedure, it would be quite difficult to enforce this ordinance.
Mhm.
But that's the maximum penalty under our code enforcement. It would be deemed an uncorrectable offense, right?
okay,
And once it occurs, there's no opportunity for the violator or offender to do it.
right.
This is certainly a civil citation, and this is the maximum penalty. But certainly, code enforcement does have different level of fines based on the nature of the offense. This is just the maximum penalty.
Okay.
Through the
Any
chair.
other- Yes,
Yeah.
you're recognized.
So it would be like not to exceed $500. So obviously it's at the discretion of the administrative tribunal. They could say less or more. So that's the maximum.
Right.
And then we're also reserving the right to pursue other remedies such as abatement of nuisance, injunctive relief, administrative adjudication and revocation of
Where are
licenses.
you
or
reading, if you
permits.
don't mind?
That's section 3.
Okay.
Yeah, page 3, section 3.
Abatement of nuisance, injunction relief, administrative, yeah, okay.
That's just the standard remedy.
Yeah.
Law that
Right.
You're enacting is actually a civil penalty. You have to advise the public of what the penalty is. It's not a function, so in this case, the proposal is a fine of $500.
Okay.
I think, sorry, through the chair, I think one of the drafts I saw said that it would start at $100. So that's another option. Start at 100, not to exceed 500, something like that. Obviously, if we're keeping it just to the battery context, like somebody got beat up, right?
Yeah.
So, $100. You might as well just do the 500 now that we're here. I guess.
Okay. You're recognized. Turn on your microphone.
Let's do the 500. You want to do that? And then we can just,
Yeah, my big question was if we wanted the assault, it seems like we don't want to do that, and I agree. So it would just be keeping the battery stuff in there. And then, I mean, I'm not married to the 500. I didn't write this. I'm just saying that's what it says. I think 500 is fine.
okay. All right, so I move on that. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Before you vote, I'm sorry, just before you vote, so I could be clear on what we're trying to do here.
Yes,
I'm looking at, I guess it's page 3,
page 3.
or page 2, where the election protection integrity, where the stuff that's underlined.
Stuff that's underlined.
Okay, are we on the same? A little
Hold
bit
on.
lower, a little bit lower, a little lower, a little lower.
Page 3. Yeah,
Page
okay.
3. Okay.
So section 5815, right?
5815. So just, I want to go through a couple of things so I understand exactly what we're doing, if we're keeping all this or we're striking some of the things. So is the subject of a potential fine based on all of this that we have here? That's underlined? In other words, proposed language? Is that what the subject of the fine would be? Because I could see some issues here with enforceabilities, definitely a whole bunch of he said, she said. We're gonna put our officers in a situation that's gonna be chaotic. But if I could just look at the first one, intimidate means to make timid or fearful or inspire or affect with fear, especially to compel action or inaction. Have any of you stood at JFK during an election?
Through the chair. So those are the those are the elements of assault. So that's what we're saying that we're taking out.
You're gonna take all that out, okay?
Correct,
And
correct.
so also on number 2.
It's just gonna be bodily harm. Bodily harm.
Right.
Sticking with
Any,
bodily harm.
right, any
Right.
kind of actual
So-
physical
so-
is my understanding, right?
everybody walk around with a fine.
Yeah, that's why. Nothing that really, we can't control what people say. This is a free country. And if they want to voice it at the top of their lungs in front of you, then you have to just deal with it. But if they touch you and they lay hands on you, that's where I think we have a problem.
Right. It would be an offensive touching on another person.
Right.
Well, that, right, so that part, and I guess asking the chief, that part is product of a formal complaint that's being made, right?
Right, if you make a formal complaint, we'll investigate it criminally. What I'm listening to here is more of a civil nature, where once the criminal route takes its course, whether it's prosecuted, trial, physical trial,
But it
after
need-
that is where I guess the civil aspect would be, and the enforceability would be, I'm assuming, code enforcement, because we wouldn't be enforcing fines. in regards to
So this would be once they're convicted, after the investigation is proven that they did commit bodily harm, right? After they committed battery.
I would defer that question to the
Attorney.
to the attorney, because she's the one that probably wrote this.
So, there may not even be a criminal prosecution.
Okay.
But certainly, this is battery is a crime. I think you have laws on the books that talk about battery, battery in a riot, right? And that have aggravating factors, I'm trying to say. And it's the laws that are within the jurisdiction and authority of our police department to enforce. Not to say that our police officers may also not enforce our municipal codes. But when you're talking about, criminal laws, and you're trying to mirror a code or a civil code, right? Or a law, a local law, with only civil penalties, then you're placing either the code enforcement officer, which is whom you vested with the authority to enforce this specific section, or a law enforcement acting as a code enforcement in a difficult position of wearing two hats. And so I see this proposal as, as written, it is, it conforms to the law. But it's fraught with all sorts of practical enforcement problems for the city. More so if you charge your police officers to enforce. I think that clearly if an officer observes a battery or receives a complaint of a battery and, opens an investigation and brings charges and the state attorney prosecutes, then, we allow the criminal justice system to see this enforcement action through, and eventually the person will face some sort of either be exonerated or face some sort of penalty. The conversations that I've had with the council member raise some additional issues that I have to go back and consider, which are, well, this is a civil violation. First of all, we have to get over the hurdle of actually establishing that the violation occurred. But code violations have to be, are enforced through our code enforcement officers on personal investigation. So what you are actually requiring is that when this occurs, that the code enforcement officer actually observe and have cause to believe that the violation occurred, present the violator with a violation and call, and set it for hearing before the special master. I mean, I just don't know when our code enforcement officers are going to have the opportunity to do that. Second of all, you're also asking a code enforcement, a civilian officer, to intervene in a situation that, most of the time, all citizens would call police when you're talking about a battery. So I think ultimately our conversations led to, well, can we, after the criminal prosecution is concluded, if there is a criminal prosecution, then bring a civil violation against this presumably convicted person of the battery under our code. And so, I mean, another practical enforcement problem would be, well, how long from the date of the occurrence, having gone through the prosecution and conviction, would we then open up a civil violation? And I still have questions about whether that would place the person, to face a conviction face two penalties for the same misconduct, in essence, right? The criminal prosecution and the conviction through the criminal justice system. And once that is concluded, then ultimately a civil penalty through a code enforcement administrative hearing.
Okay. Chief, if I could refer to you. Do we have any similar situation in the city where we have a civil penalty given to a resident through our police department? Is there another situation that kind of mirrors this in the city?
We don't have officers around.
This is nothing that we've ever done. And you wouldn't want.
It is a question of policy. You have had officers
act as code enforcement as code enforcement officers, enforcing a civil violation. So they're not necessarily, even though they're not necessarily acting as a police officer and even though some of the same protections apply, right? You still have to have cause, you still have to watch out or be mindful of unlawful searches and seizures, but you're not acting as a police officer. You can have your police officers enforce civil codes. We have had certain officers dedicated for quality of life. It's a way to supplement your code enforcement personnel out in the road. But, it is a policy decision. I think the chief has expressed himself clearly that he wants police officers to
That's out of
act as police officers. And, there's value in that decision in terms of legal exposure for whatever conduct our police officers may be engaging out there in the field.
To the chair.
Yes,
Just
you're
a very
recognized.
quick point. So obviously we got to hire more code enforcement officers. But the second thing is going to be, so this is chapter 58 of offenses of our charter. This is number 15. This would be the 15th offense we would have on the books, meaning we have 14 others. that
Can you
currently
go back
exist.
to referring? I'm sorry, Councilman. Where are you? What are you referring to?
Just page 2, the top, this is chapter 58 of our code. And you see there, section 58-15.
Right.
So we have 14 other ones. If you go on Muni code, you'll see them. Littering, nuisance. There's other offenses, whether or not they're enforced, imagine. But this is the provision of how this is the framed, right? It's not the first offense that we've created. It's the 15th. And obviously, yes. So, I mean, I believe that code enforcement should be the one that spearheads this. Obviously, this will encompass some sort of tribunal. It's not like the guy's there with a little ticket book, collecting the $500 right there on the spot. There's a process like anything. And so what we were discussing was to sort of make this a little bit easier to digest is this would be subsequent to any sort of criminal investigations. To run through a hypothetical. The guy beats someone else up. The police is called. Police go ahead and arrest that person. The state attorney filed charges. They get convicted of that crime. Now the city can go and assess a $500. So that would be the time. The hypothetical timeline. The same way, like I said, Christopher, for example, wanted to go ahead and sue someone. He can. He totally has that right. He could do it before criminal charges, after, at the same time. But again, if he doesn't, I mean, we live in a community with less than normal access to legal counsel. If he didn't do that, if he didn't know about that process, and the criminal justice system doesn't pull through, he's kind of left without a recourse. So this is where we step in as a city, assessing the fine, like how we do on anything. Now, can you collect on the fine? Yes, there's a million and one things. Again, that's why I started by framing this as more than anything, it's normative, right? We have laws in the book saying you can't murder someone, but people get murdered every day. So that's not going to change just because we pass this, right? I have no.
So I'm trying to. I'm trying to understand and to see where the landing space is here. This is, I think this is brought because of a situation we had in the city during the last election, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know where that is as far as the state attorney's office is concerned. I don't know where that is at this point. I'm just trying to get an understanding, Councilman, if one is going door to door, all of us have gone door to door in campaigns.
Yes.
um, a property owner would have the right whether to open the door, not open the door. The property owner, yes, would have the right to tell us to get off his property, right?
Yep.
If I wanted to, if I'm going door to door and I decided, well, you know, I felt that the way the property owner spoke to me was a little over the top, and now I'm gonna kind of stand my ground a little bit. Does that property owner have the right to, you know, get me by the britches and throw me off his property? And if that is the case, you know, are we now, am I able then to claim basically, no, he's not allowing me, he did it because, you know, I'm wearing a red jersey and he was wearing a blue jersey. And I'm just trying to, what will this do? What will this do that currently isn't already prohibited, right? I mean, if you can't,
The only thing it would do, sorry, through the chair, the only thing it would do is the $500. That's it. That's the end. Like I said, I mean, it's a normative statement, ultimately, because you have laws on the books already. And it's, you know,
yeah, I know, I was looking at some of these laws in the books here and yeah, there are some cases where I think police have been asked, you know, to be involved. You know,
I saw, sorry, through the chair, I saw this one that was kind of interesting, and now that we were talking about outdated stuff, I had no idea that in Hialeah, possession or use or sale to minors of air guns is prohibited, like a BB gun.
Big problem in the city.
So,
Yeah,
Um,
so the $500
also
fine,
burning crosses.
the $500 fine, then it's product of our normal code enforcement, trying to chase money, lien on property,
If I may, through the mayor, something stuck though that the councilman said that was a little bit odd. He said that if the person goes to court and isn't convicted, this is a second way for now the victim to cash in or to have some kind of, but if they weren't convicted, then wouldn't this penalty not be enforced because there was no evidence of a crime? So then you can't use this as a backup?
Through the chair. So you can get convicted and then you can get acquitted, and then there's all the gray in between. So if you're acquitted, that means a jury said or a judge said you're not guilty of that crime, and you walk home clean record, clean slate.
But then that opens us up to a lot of
And
litigation,
that- no,
because if
but
that
in
were
that
me,
s- in that
and if I
scenario-
got acquitted in the justice system, and now the city of Hialeah is coming and saying, hey, now you owe me $500 because the victim feels that, you know, he still didn't get the justice he deserved. I already went through the process. So now where's the evidence? Just because,
No, it's not.
they want-
It's not automatic. Obviously, there's.
and
a-
obviously I'm not speaking on your case, Christopher Monzon. This is something, a hypothetical that we're, okay?
Obviously, there's a due process component to this. So you have to get a hearing, right? You have to be able to plead your case. But what I was trying to bring up is, obviously, if the person was acquitted by a jury, we wouldn't pursue that person, right? That's where you have the discretion. You would pursue the convictions, not the acquittals. So the people that were convicted by a jury that said that you did this, those are the people that you would go after. Obviously, then there's also all the gray in between. So what if charges were filed and then you pled, you know, no contest? Or what if charges were filed and then the prosecutor doing your case has 400 cases? And they couldn't get to this one because it wasn't that important.
No, I mean, we
So
could sit here
charges
all
were
day. We
dropped.
could sit here all day and talk different hypotheticals, but at the end of the day, our enforcement, what belongs to us as the city and how we follow up with fining and what the police feels comfortable doing, what the inspection department, you know, feels comfortable doing. I don't know that there's a lot, and I was 100% behind this when you brought it up.
Yeah.
I was full blown, but now, this is the process. You know, I'm happy that we get to sit here and we get to discuss and we get to like rip it apart a little bit to see how can we actually make this happen. Because I was your cheerleader and I backed it up and I was 100% for it. But now I'm seeing that there's a lot of holes in this, right? So I would feel comfortable if maybe we could table the item, maybe double check, what other municipalities do in these kind of scenarios and bring in some other options to really make this solid, because right now
So-
it's a little bit gray for me.
So why don't we do this? Because we were talking about maybe doing a workshop. I don't know if you want to drag everybody in for a workshop. I think I've tapped out on that. But
You mean for the people that candidates that,
no, just to discuss this more in depth, but so that it's not just a discussion of me or in the city attorney's office. We can get some more input, maybe from the mayor's office, maybe from police,
I
and
think
make a
that
little group
if we bring
of
something,
looking at this.
but if we bring something that's been done, that maybe is already written,
Yeah.
that some other location does, and then we could compare it to see how it applies to our city. So we have some kind of blueprint and see if it's feasible, if it's something that we could truly enforce. I think I would feel comfortable with that process. If
Yeah,
we,
yeah, I mean, I think that would be part of the process and just kind of examining.
How do
right,
we
like all
feel?
of these outdated things that we were talking.
Yes, sir, you're
One last-
recognized, Mayor.
just One last question. Chief, if you could help me here for a second. So if notwithstanding or set aside the political nature of the proposed ordinance or whatever we're proposing. If somebody does something that somebody goes and smacks you in the face, is that assault?
That's considered a battery.
A battery?
Right.
So what's described here, would that be considered battery?
I haven't read that.
It's considered assault, but there is a
Assault?
provision buried in there that if you either threaten or actually commit the act,
All right, I'm sorry.
you've got the elements of both sir, in the proposal.
Okay,
But we
so
were
if I
gonna-
threaten you,
That's an assault.
that's an assault.
You're
So
able to
the
carry,
actually
and you're able to
smacking
carry
you-
out that threat.
Then that's
an
battery.
assault. No,
Okay.
the
No.
battery is the unlawful touching one person to the
Making
other.
contact.
Ganadong.
Mm,
Exactly, the slap, the punch.
That's
uh,
the battery.
That's the battery.
That's the battery.
That's the
Okay.
battery. The I'm gonna beat you up, that's the assault.
That's the assault.
But
So I
you didn't
guess-
touch the person.
So I guess
Correct.
just, I just want to understand as we continue to work on this thing, because I think the spirit of it is right. Currently, there are laws, the city has laws that address issues of battery. Do they have anything in the book that addresses assault?
The state
Florida-
does.
Florida
These are
statute
crimes.
does.
These
The
are
state
Florida
crimes.
does.
Yes,
statute
sir.
addresses assault, addresses batteries. When we get
Versus
called to a
aggravating
scene, we
factors.
investigate whatever allegations are made. And we either have probable cause or not to make an arrest. We have the victim party has the option to either prosecute, not prosecute on the scene. So there's many different ways that an investigation could go. But yes, we charge with probable cause if there is a crime that occurred. Assault is that when you intimidate, advise someone that you're going to do harm to them and you're capable to do that harm. And the battery is the unlawful touching from one person to the other.
And we have the ability to do something that is stronger than the state, no? You can't do something that's weaker than the state.
Well, we don't have the ability to to enact ordinances that carry criminal penalties, certainly not felonies. They would be misdemeanors, but your charter prohibits criminal penalties. So you're limited by the penalty that you can impose for any violation of any penal ordinance that you adopt.
Yeah, look, I
Well,
think
so-
clearly you need to work on it a little bit more. If the intent is to make sure you put the brakes on somebody that goes overboard with their opposition to a candidate or to a political movement, you know, to put the brakes on something so it doesn't get out of hand, right?
Mhm.
And,
I mean, the chair.
Yes, you're
Councilman-
recognized.
I'm fine.
Go ahead, you're recognized.
So as Councilman Calvo originally thought process, look, we're gonna send a statement out in Hialeah that you can walk our streets safe. And then you're gonna stand in the corner, but he's gonna say something to you. And if you do something, there's gonna be a +1, which is the way I see it, right? So how do we dissect it? But I'm all for it, just making a statement in the city of Hialeah, people can walk around, and just be safe out. And also, letting everybody know as a significant what the council did with the city government, telling everybody this is what we represent as a Hialeah. That's my take.
Okay, so we have a motion on this item or any further
Um,
discussion?
I mean, I think it, through the chair, sorry.
Yes, you recognize.
I think the consensus would be to sort of table this for now, I'll just hold it myself since I'm sponsoring it. And then we can go ahead and make a little group to kind of look at this. I just don't want to do it and avoid myself because like I need more input, right? I mean, so I don't know who exactly should compose that little group, but maybe come back in a couple months or whatever and have something a little bit more ready, polished.
Yeah. We'll table the item. So we have a table by Councilman Calvo. We have a second by Councilman Rodriguez.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz? Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is tabled until further notice.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 10E.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending Chapter 2 entitled Administration, Article 3 entitled Boards, Commissions, and Committees by amending Division 3 entitled Cultural Affairs Council by designating it as the Cultural Affairs Council Committee, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's on first reading.
Through the chair.
Yes, you're
I'm
recognized.
sorry. So Lorena, so we're changing in 10E, 10F, we're just changing from boards to
It's
committees.
a little form over substance, but yes.
Yeah, okay. And why, can you explain just real quick why?
Yeah, so it's the discussion we had
Yeah.
at our last meeting, right? Committees are not boards, these are recommending bodies. And so it frees up the council or the appointing authority to name persons to serve in these roles that are not necessarily city residents.
I move.
We have a motion, but before we motion, if we could have the two different committees and councils emailed, just so that the council is well aware of who they can nominate for which.
We-
Once it's clear, once we've
We'll
passed
work
it.
on cleaning up the spreadsheet
Okay.
with all those boards and all those committees
Thank you.
and the qualifications.
I
to
appreciate
serve.
that. Thank you so much. All right, so we have a motion by Councilman Tundidor. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I have a second by Councilman Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for January 24th, 2023.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10F.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending Chapter 2 entitled Administration, Article 3 entitled Boards, Commissions, and Committees by amending Division 5 entitled Veterans Affairs Board by designating it as the Veterans Affairs Committee, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. We have a motion. I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Tundidor.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for January 24th, 2023.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 10F.
10G, ma'am. 10F, we
did
just
the
voted on.
veterans?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. 10G, I apologize. Go
First
ahead.
reading of proposed ordinance amending Chapter 2 entitled Administration, Article 3 entitled Boards, Commissions, and Committees by amending Division 2 entitled Youth Advisory Board by designating it as the Youth Advisory Committee, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz and a second by Councilman Tundidor.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for January 24th, 2023.
Thank you. Item 10H.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting Pivotal Utility Holdings Incorporated doing business as Florida City Gas, its successors and assigns, a non-exclusive natural gas franchise in the city of Hialeah, Florida, including the right to construct, maintain, and operate gas lines, providing for regulation of the gas system by the city, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
I'm sorry, through the chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
Lorena, could you just give me a quick high-level summary?
It's a renewal of our existing franchise with Florida City Gas to provide natural gas to our residents.
How often is, how long is the term? I mean, how often do we renew?
I think it's 30 years, sir.
Okay, all right.
The chair.
Yes,
Lorena,
you're recognized.
And I'm sorry, I'm just asking, do you know if they're going to expand? Or
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I can't hear you.
As far as the gas, or can anybody answer the question as far as expanding the coverage? I think, in other words, I know some parts of Hialeah don't have gas pipes going in there, and they said there was always gonna bring in our western area. So I remember I wanted gas in the house and I couldn't. They told me they were gonna expand. I don't know if anybody knows that answer.
I'm
I
not
know you're
sure,
not ready
sir,
for-
but I can ask the representative to be here at the next
Yeah.
meeting. Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Casals Munoz.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Oh, and I have a second from Councilman Rodriguez.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for January 24th, 2023.
Thank you. Item 10I.
Pursuant to section 2.01 of the city's charter, Mayor Esteban Bobo Jr. appoints George Martinez, subject to civil service rules and regulations, to the position of Director of the Construction and Maintenance Department.
Mayor, this is your item.
Yeah, he's online. He's not here. And I don't know if his camera's on or not, but,
George Martinez.
let's formally welcome George on board. He's doing a great job. He's hit the ground running since he's been here, and he's working not just looking at all our assets. I think if you have shared with some of you, some of the things that we found in some of our parks, product of an interview process where he was able to identify, and that was just kind of like walking through the building. But we're working together, not just in all our assets. We're working on the buildings also, senior buildings, to make sure some of the issues that have gone unaddressed for a long time are getting addressed. And here he is online. Wave, Jorge, so people see you.
Yes, I am online.
So when you get a chance, by all means, meet with him, talk to him. Because I know you all get complaints also. Years about it.
Well, welcome, George Martinez. Welcome. And thank you
Welcome.
for the work you've been doing. We appreciate it.
Welcome.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Vice President. And I have a second from Councilwoman Casals Munoz.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right.
Thank
we're
you.
moving on to board appointments, but there's nothing here, but I would like to have a discussion with the council. We received an email by our clerk letting us know that we still haven't assigned somebody for our retirement board. And it's a council seat that we have to recommend. I have someone in mind and I wanted to see if maybe you guys agree. And if we do, then we could reach out and have them submit a resume. It has to be someone that lives in the city. and obviously an employee. And I was thinking of Pat Carnival's son, the junior. What do you guys think of having him on the board?
I think he's in a couple boards. I think didn't we ask him?
No, the Pat is.
Not senior, junior. I'm talking about the son.
Son, yeah. Does he want to do it?
I believe he's interested. Yes, that's why I'm
Okay.
suggesting, unless you
I
have
love him.
somebody else.
I love him.
If you have anybody else that you would like to submit a resume, I think this is a very important board for our employees. To have someone there that they respect, someone that they know.
Who are we, what seat is he gonna take? What, is that Jonathan's seat?
Is he not active?
No, that was Manny Ferreira who sat in that seat, and then he no longer a city resident, so he resigned and it's been vacant since.
Okay,
We just have questions on whether it could be an employee.
Hmm,
I'm not sure, but I heard you say he was an employee.
yeah. He's still an active employee, correct, chief?
Chief, is Pat Junior an employee still?
He's still an active employee.
Eh?
Junior, Carnival.
Carnival.
Like,
June
what?
1st is his last day.
So does he have to be an active employee on?
So I think the court is silent, but give me an opportunity to review and I can get back to you.
Okay,
Don't we have active employees on the board?
No, but this specific position.
Yeah, June 1st.
his last day. So I've gone around asking a few employees, asking them who they would want representing them, because this is their retirement, and many of them voiced to me this name, and that's why I brought it to the table. I don't know if you have anybody else that the seat has been open for a year now. So I believe that it's our responsibility to fill it by
This is
next
the elected officials one, the one that we vote for? No?
employee retirement.
General.
No, I know it's a general employees. My question is, in the seat,
It's a council
Manny
seat.
was the council seat, right? Manny was a council seat, so it's the council that appoints.
And then we would need that person's resume. So if you have any other suggestions.
No, I like Carnival. The whole Carnival family for years has
And it
been
doesn't go
representing.
against our code?
I'll get back.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, so just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to unfinished business. Seeing there is none, do we have any new business?
Through the chair.
Yes.
So I just wanted to highlight and I guess ask for the support of the council on this. I'm not sure the word committee is appropriate. Perhaps task force is more appropriate, although that sounds very serious.
Aggressive.
So the latest statistics that I've seen, approximately 230,000 Cuban migrants crossed into the United States in the last year alone. Governor DeSantis signed an executive order 2303, which provided resources, directed state law enforcement agencies. The issue that they had in the Keys right after the new year, in the last 10 days, they've received over 400 Cuban migrants in the Florida Keys. And additionally, just in Florida alone, in the last 6 months, 8,000 Cuban migrants have arrived on our shores via boat. And so all of that coupled with the Supreme Court's Title 42 decision and President Biden's now proposal of 30,000 visas to be granted, by all indications, by all experts, if last year was 230,000, I think we can expect a lot more this year. And my concern is I'd like to be very proactive on this as a local government, knowing that we are the largest by far Cuban American or just Cuban native population in the entire United States. A lot of these people, quite frankly, are going to make their way, if they haven't already, to our city. And I think the goal of this group, this task force committee, whatever it needs to be called, should be to sort of look at the real impacts that the increases in immigration are having on our city. And more importantly, to try to figure out if we can source some funding from some sort of our state or federal levels to try to mitigate some of the effects that this is having on our community. So yeah, like just this executive order for the Keys, that provides some money to the Keys, and certainly those people obviously arrived there, but they're gonna make their way to Hialeah. And Hialeah is not getting the money, to my knowledge. So I'd like to see if we can maybe get someone from the mayor's office, get, police, fire, grants, maybe some of our state reps or lobbyists, what have you, just make a little group so we can discuss this, monitor this proactively over the next couple months and see what develops and see if there's any possibility of getting some sort of funding. Just today, there's a story of right across the street here from City Hall, a building where the tenants were paying $500 a month in rent for a one bedroom, which was a great deal. Well, now they're going to be paying $1,800 a month. Luckily, they had the 60 days, so they're not going to be out until March, but they definitely can't pay for it. And we have ERAP, and I'm sure that'll play a role, but those are some effects. Obviously, I think to my perception of things, I have no way to quantify this, but to my perception, there's an increase in homelessness in Hialeah that we need to be more aggressive. It's trying to provide solutions to some of these symptoms of greater immigration. So I would like the support of the council on this, and all I got.
So through the chair, Councilman Cobb, well, actually.
Yes, you're recognized.
The only difference this time is when they start, this could be a workforce. They're gonna have work permits. And as a hiring manager.
For the 30,000,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so the workforce, believe it or not, need people to start working as soon as possible. So I'm for the board, we can also use a positivity as far as that.
Right.
So they can get 2 and 3 jobs and pay that rent, so that's the way I see it. And I'm thinking strictly as a hiring manager that I am. So a little bit different, putting my politics views aside, whatever it is, just as far as the facts are, we are going to have a working body as far as workforce is coming in, which is not what we're seeing now. Now we're seeing abuse, which that's why we need a board. And I know we have, in the faith board, we've talked about it and we're moving forward so people will not take advantage of the undocumented. So it's a lot of things behind the scene, and I agree with you what's going on. And I think this particular immigration is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be whatever they bring to the table, they're going to be paid for. A little bit different from the one we actually have now, which is the problem when you're bringing in, what we're talking about is people taking advantage of all that. So I'm afforded for that. That's it.
All right. Anyone else?
Just a word of caution. Let's not auto create an emergency for ourselves. And let's let this play out a little bit. We've already started with discussions with the federal government to get a better understanding on how this is going to operate and is going to work. Because there's a lot of unknowns. And I think, the president announced a policy it still doesn't address illegal immigration. All it does is maybe advance or open the door for more legal immigration, which obviously we should encourage. But I just want to be cautious. I don't want to start creating a committee. Not that I'm opposed to it, but I just don't want to. Maybe we need to start collecting a little bit more data, and I think that's a valid request by the council to see if we've seen an uptick in certain areas that we can measure. And if we are seeing them, then I think maybe then we could start experimenting or kind of going down that path. But what I'll do is, I don't know if I could have it by the next council meeting, but definitely by February, I could see if I could get you some data points that we could look at and maybe analyze as far as crime statistics, as far as homelessness. Our grants department has already started going into the field to identify, who's out there, who's homeless. All of you may have, like I myself have received phone calls from individuals saying that we're seeing, in shopping centers and what have you. We need to get a better assessment of that and then maybe it warrants another level of of eyes on, or maybe some counsel. But give us a little chance to maybe get a better assessment. We could look at crime statistics, and we could look at what our grants department reports as far as homelessness, trying to identify. There are people that are homeless, there are people that are living in cars. Give us an opportunity to get our arms around it a little bit better. Because I do believe there will be a moment that we're going to go to the federal government says, if you're going to open the flood valves, you need to support us. No city is capable of taking on an influx of people without some sort of federal support. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Absolutely.
I do want to add, kind of related, maybe not. We, part of what I'd like to try to accomplish this year in 23, and it's going to involve all of you, and I've had some conversations with some of you individually about this, is that we need to start thinking in terms of mapping our city out, setting a long-term vision. The last time it's been done here was in, I think, maybe 2001 or 2002. Hasn't been done again. And I think we need to start, and we need to look at it in a very broad sense. We need to look at transportation. We need to look at housing. We need to look at business development. We need to look at the possibility of expansion. I think we need to put all of that and start trying to get a vision of what does this city look like 20, 25 years from now. And then how do we start moving in that direction? And, taking account of all our assets. How can we build off of those assets? I mean, I think this is something that is critically important for us to be able to plan. And the reason I say it's related is because what we're dealing with, Councilman, on this issue of pricing is a supply and demand issue. Clearly, you got a lot of people coming into South Florida. It's not just a Hialeah issue, it's a Dade County issue, maybe a Florida issue, and that is just setting off prices. And the only way I think to counter that, short of some socialist experiment that I know no one on this council supports, I don't support, is how do we expedite, construction? How do we accommodate construction, and at the same time that delicate balance of respecting, people that have their single family homes? One could argue the market's already doing it with efficiencies. It's already doing it organically, but I would tell you that's not a model for development long term. Probably chaotic for development. And if we're going to allow, and I know it's been talked about at the county commission, if we're going to allow this and no longer turn a blind eye to it, then we should be looking at homes that have more than one family in it, and they're producing garbage that is basically going uncharged, and services that are being rendered that is not being paid for. So I would tell you that's going to be the challenge. We went through this in a budget cycle where you try to keep your millage rate flat. You try not to fall into the traps of fool's gold by lowering it for political purpose, and you don't raise it, obviously, because we know the political consequence to that. And then we're going to be continuously challenged to see how can we, grow the city, but do it in a right and just way. And, this is the time, this is the space that we're all in here. And I think now's the time to be able to start mapping that out. Some of you young guns are going to be here for a lot longer than I am. You need to look at what your city's going to look like and take full advantage of, those that have been here for a while, what works, what doesn't work. But I would tell you that's going to be a big challenge for this city, because I think we're in a very, very sweet spot right now where a lot of people are looking at the city as a, as the right place to be, with all the geography around us, the access, the highways, proximity to the airport. what have
Success of
you, yeah.
businesses here. Yeah.
And yeah, you scratch the dirt here, businesses usually survive in long term. So that's something that I think in 23, I definitely want to do. And, I'm serious enough about it. We're going to invest some money into this to make sure it's done right. The council's going to play a very crucial role. It will bring in business leaders. I think they need to be at the table, and the public as a whole, not just through their elected representatives, should have a say on what they'd like to see happening,
Sir.
I just think that's going to be a big challenge. But I'll come back to you first meeting in February, maybe with some data points. as
Mayor,
far
if
as
we
some
can,
influx.
if we can add in there, I don't know the confidentiality agreement, but with schools to maybe see what has been the enrollment change of these ESOL level 1 students. And that would give us an idea of, the immigrant status, at least in the youth in our community, which I think is very important. This topic, we can't turn a blind eye. It's happening. We are being affected. To what degree, we don't know. I think it's important to have the data. This has touched me in a very sensitive spot, especially this last month. I met a young boy that he was 18 years old. I'm not going to give details of anything else, but he came here illegally, like many are being promised to come here alone. And you can't survive here alone by yourself at 18 years old with no papers and no right to work. He was sleeping at our park at Bucky Dent. He was the size of a skeleton. There was many good people in our community in Hialeah that reached out and helped this young man. And he was gonna take his own life because of how much he was bearing here in this community. And I'm very proud that many people stepped up to help him, and he's somewhere safe now. But it is happening, and we need numbers. We need to know how we could help and what kind of tools the government could give us to really help these
Yeah,
situations.
Let me
So
add to that. I've been visiting schools now for the better part of, since the school year started, and we're going to continue to do it. And no doubt about it, there are kids that are going through La Frontera and are traumatized,
Yes.
and they're going into our public school system. I challenge today our park director, as we're developing a sports programming, which I believe in greatly. We need to carve out a space for these children that are coming to make sure, because one of the ways to help them assimilate is to get them out on the field and play with other kids and start maybe breaking down that awesome intimidation that they may feel when their parents bring them, those that come with their parents, right? I can't even fathom those that come without their parents, but
call any school and ask them how their enrollment was yesterday for the first day back to the school.
sure.
Every single school had about 15 kids enrolling that just came through the border here in Hialeah.
Through the chair.
Yeah,
I-
you're recognized.
Mayor, just to echo, and Councilman, I think that's a good idea. I do agree with you on that idea, putting together some sort of group to analyze this. Mayor, a couple of weeks ago, I went with our police and fire unions to go distribute some toys to James H. Bright, and James Bright, I remember growing up, it was a tough school, and today it's a great school. They got a lot of teachers and counselors that really care about those kids, and we had about 25 kids, and all 25 across the border, and no one there spoke English, and it was very, very shocking to see, right, that all 25 of them came from across the border. So there is an impact here, right? I mean, and we went to Florida Blue the other day on 49th Street. They were having a community event. About 90% of the folks there came from Cuba just recently, and they were there for the food and stuff like that. So there is an impact, right? And I think we should analyze it, but I want to make sure we don't let this slip through the cracks.
No,
and-
we can't.
Through the chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
Maybe if we can have Maria talk next time.
Can you talk into the mic?
Excuse me, Maria, we can have Maria from Grants. I know she's been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I think she was working a night shift again. A lot of information she has. I'm part of the board, so I listen to her talk, but I want the council to listen to. She's out there, guys. Second, as born and raised in Hialeah, we in the 80s when we saw immigration in Maria, a lot of the Cubans were like, were put like that's a word I'm saying, una peste, and we don't want to do that, actually. So yes, there is as far as we do the board, that's the right question, but there is a foundation for this right now. So I'm in agreement in the future.
Okay, we don't need to vote on this, right? It's
Well,
just a
I-
suggestion, it's just
I
something that's
think I don't
gonna
have
be-
an action
right.
item. I think what I hear is that
We're gonna
you're
investigate.
requesting information of the mayor and he's
Yes.
taken your request to heart and he
Right.
will come back.
Perfect. Well, I thank you. Anyone else, or is that it? Are we done with new business? Okay, let's move on to our zoning. Do we need to take a break? Anyone want to take a restroom break, or are you ready to move on?
I'm good.
Let's just go. Let's just go.
Okay,
Will all those persons who will be testifying on an item, please stand and raise your right hand?
for our zoning items, los que van a hablar esta noche, que se paren, por favor.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God, if so say I do.
¿Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio
Can't hear you, Lauren. Here.
Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que vas a dar será la verdad, toda la verdad y únicamente la verdad y que Dios sea su testigo? Por favor, diga que sí si la respuesta es afirmativa.
Ladies and gentlemen, those that are going to be speaking tonight, if we could have your attention, because right now it's just the swearing in.
Let the record reflect that all have responded in the affirmative.
En el archivo público contestará que todos han respondido afirmativamente.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, PZ 1 is postponed till January 24th. So we're moving on to PZ 2. It's a second reading and public hearing.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from A agricultural district to R33 multiple family district. Property located at 10 West 53rd Terrace, Hialeah, zoned A agricultural district. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This is the second reading. Do we have anyone here that wants to speak on the item? Anyone online? Hi, good
Happy
evening.
New Year to
Happy
everybody.
New Year.
Yuselis Gato, 501 Palm Avenue, Hialeah, Florida. I am here on behalf of staff to answer any questions, but the owner of the property is actually in Zoom. Pedro Alvarez.
Pedro Peña.
Sí,
Oh, Pedro
sí.
Alvarez Peña. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any questions on this item, council?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Tundidor and I have a second by Councilman Rodriguez.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tunidor, Mr. Calvo,
It's not here.
he has stepped away. Ms. Casal Munoz. Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Alvarez. Your item has been approved.
Thank you.
Have a good night. PZ 3.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property located at 1261 Southeast Eighth Court from R1 One Family District to R32 Multiple Family District, granting a variance permit to allow 2 residential units on the ground floor where residential units are allowed above the ground floor. Allow 12 residential units with an area of 720 square feet where 850 square feet is the minimum required, and only 10% of the units, 2 units, may have an area of 600 square feet. Allow an 11-foot front setback where 10 feet built to line are required. Allow 8% pervious area where 30% pervious area is the minimum required. And allow 50 parking spaces where 71 parking spaces are required. All contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1630.2, 98-1630.3, subsection E1, 98-2056, subsection B1, and 98-2189, subsection 16A. Properties located at 1251 Southeast 8th Court and 1261 Southeast 8th Court. Folio number 04312001100280. Hialeah zoned R1 One Family District and R32 Multiple Family District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Good evening.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy
Melissa
New Year.
Tapinas, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, Miami. I have a presentation. I'm available for any questions, the will of the council.
Okay. Yes, I recognize.
Yeah, no, Mr. Stefanos, we haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. It feels right now. Hey, don't get like that. Don't get from first reading, to second reading, big change.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, I don't think a presentation is needed. I think we saw it last time. And so, great item, great project, and I move.
So all the planners' recommendations and conditions have been amended. This is second reading. Do we have anyone here that would like to speak on the item since it's open to public hearing? Anyone online? All right, seeing that there's none, and we have Councilman Tunidor that has motioned the item. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Vice President Garcia Royce.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tunidor?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz? Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, we're moving on to PZ 4.
Ma'am, if I can first record Councilmember Calvo's vote on item PZ 2, please.
Yes.
And
Councilman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Casal Munoz's vote on item PZ 2, please. Thank you. Item PZ 4, second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow front setback of 6 feet and street side setback of 6.1 feet where 10 feet built to line are required, and allow 45 parking spaces where 68 parking spaces are required. Contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1630.3 subsection E1 and 98-2189 subsection 16A. Property located at 2450 through 2496 Palm Avenue, Hialeah, Zone C2, Liberal Retail Commercial District with Area 1 NBD. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Perez. Your name and address for the record, please.
I'm sorry.
You have
I
to
need to abstain from this item. I'm sorry. Just realized.
Mhm.
Manny Rivers Architect. The office is at 18501 Pines Boulevard, Suite 342, Pembroke Pines, Florida.
Thank you, sir. This item is on second reading. Is there anyone here in the public or anyone online that has any comments on this before we begin? Okay, go ahead. Did you want to speak on the item?
Basically, we made a presentation for the first reading and it was unanimously approved. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer.
Do we have motion? I have a motion from Councilman Rodriguez.
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Tunidor.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tunidor?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. PZ 5.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow a 27% pervious area where 30% pervious area is the minimum required. Contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2056, subsection B1. Property located at 809 West 79th Place, Hialeah, zoned R4, townhouses. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and it's a public hearing. Is anyone here to speak on the item or anyone online?
Motion.
Is there someone online?
I don't see anybody online.
Which was this one?
PZ 5.
Five.
It's on second reading.
Is this Shalice, what is this?
Case. Do I have to say my name and the
No.
address again? Okay.
Well, she already
Iseli
said it.
Sato, 501 Palm Avenue. Okay. They got a violation for a building without a permit. They came to pull a permit, and then when it went to zoning, the reviewer saw that it did not comply with the 30% in green area. So they are asking for a 3% variance. in order to proceed with their violation and get a permit.
Okay.
All right, that's fine.
I have a motion.
Yeah, you have a motion? Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez and a second by Councilman Tundidor. Thank you for that.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez. Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, PZ 6.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-1630.8 to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay for the development of a 7-unit multifamily building, granting a variance permit to allow only residential units where mixed use is required, allow residential units on the ground floor where residential units are allowed above the ground floor level. Allow all residential units with areas ranging from 550 square feet to 600 square feet, where 850 square feet is the minimum required, and only 10% of the units may have an area of 600 square feet. Allow a 5-foot east side setback where 15 feet are required, and allow 8 parking spaces where 14 parking spaces are required. All contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1630.1, 98-1630.2, 98-1630.3 subsection E2, and 98-2189 subsection 16A. Property located at 65 West 7th Street, Hialeah, zoned R3D, multifamily district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on the item or anyone online? I have a motion from Councilwoman Casals Munoz and a second from Councilman Rodriguez.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Congratulations. PZ 7.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow 15 parking spaces where 21 parking spaces are required. Contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2189, subsection 7. Property located at 840 East 25th Street, Hialeah, Zone C1, Restricted Retail Commercial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item's on first reading. Do we have anyone here to speak on this item? Mr. Mestre? Oh, I see him online. Can we unmute him? Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mestre.
Happy New Year to everyone. Cesar Mestre with law offices at 8105 Northwest 155th Street, Miami Lakes, Florida. With me tonight is the principal of the applicant, Tariq Hawatme. If you can please allow him to do his video, his camera. There you go.
I think they're working on it. Give them a second.
Good evening. There he is. He's here to answer any possible questions. We have a small presentation we'd like to go forward with. We can share the screen.
They have access to sharing the screen?
Host has disabled screen sharing, so.
There you go, at the bottom. The green button.
Got it. Okay, this is a property, 840 East 25th Street, and we're before you asking for a parking variance. There's 15 spaces where there's supposed to be, code requires 21. There's a building built in 1981 of 4,200 square feet. When the building was originally made, this is the property. It's on 25th Street on the south side, right next to, I believe it's a Navarro, that's right there on the corner. And it's important to see that this area is all commercial. This is the lot right here. And you can see that there's some purple squares on there. And those are properties that have already been rezoned to TOD. This whole area is supposed to be TOD, which we know is going to provide for higher density, less parking, because it's only 2 blocks away from the Hialeah Metro Rail Tri-Rail transfer station. So the idea is to get folks to walk and offer a little more density in the area. This is the building as it exists
Mr.
today.
Mestre, in that map that you had, where's the building that we're referring to there?
It's right here.
In the
you
gray
see-
area? In
Yeah,
front of the
that-
green dot? Okay.
Yeah, right next to the, it's all commercial, but it's right next to the Navarro, which is the red
Okay.
square. Okay.
Got it.
This is the building as it exists today. Back in 2001, it was originally a medical office, which is what we're going back to, that use. And then in 2001, it was changed to a daycare. In the process of changing it to a daycare, they got rid of some of the parking spaces so that they could provide for a playground. But that is no longer the use that's there now. So this is what it looks like now. We will be, and we're proposing to make improvements to the property. We will be adding access ramps, facade renovations, landscaping, dumpster enclosure, the removal of that existing playground in order to bring it back to the original parking configuration, which will add parking. And it will be a doctor's office. Tariq, who's here, has over 15 years of experience in managing doctor's offices, and it's actually his family's business. There will be 2 doctors working at the location. The plans provide for 7 doctors' offices, which are actually 1 administrative office and then 6 examining rooms. We know how doctors work these days. The doctors have other offices in different places. They will be here on a part-time basis, and they will have patients which they will examine roughly 20 minutes each. So there will be 3 patients for 1 doctor, 3 patients for the other, and there will be intervals of 20-minute examinations. There will be a phlebotomist, a front desk person, 1 customer service person, and we will also be providing for transportation. We have 3 buses that will help us transport the patients in and out. We have and we'll proffer a declaration which will provide for the assignment of the parking spaces will be as follows. It'll be 2 spaces for the doctors, 2 spaces for the transportation van, 5 spaces will remain open for patients coming in and out. And we will be incentivizing the patients to use the public transportation since it's so close, only 2 blocks away. If you look at this picture here, you're going to see that these buildings behind what we're proposing as a medical center is already buildings that have been built pursuant to the TOD. So this area is probably going to be developed in this type of fashion with the wider sidewalks and the incentives for everyone to walk and bike in the area. So this is what it will look like eventually when we finish it. And also this will be a good fit due to the, we'll call it the health medical corridor on 25th Street. It's close to Leon, it's close to Hialeah Hospital. But I need to point out to you that they use a different type of system. They do, the pharmacy is electronic so that the patients don't have to come in. They do a lot of the examinations or the visits online. And they also pride themselves in getting people in and out. They don't want people hanging out. This is not like a Leon where people come and hang out and play dominoes and get pastelitos and things. This is more for people that want to get in, do their 20-minute examination, get out and get on their way. You have a recommendation of approval from staff, and you have a recommendation of approval from the P&Z board. So we respectfully ask that you approve this parking variance. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Through the chair,
You're recognized, sir.
Caesar, so
Yep.
how many rooms are you gonna have here?
There are 7, what I'm going to call offices, which will be 1 will be the administrative room. and 6 are examining rooms for the 2 doctors.
So one admin office and then 6 patient offices.
Correct.
Okay, and then how many doctors are you gonna have?
2 doctors on a part-time basis. There's a dermatologist and a general practitioner that will be working here. And they have offices in other places as well.
Okay, so aside from the doctors, do you have any mid-level providers that are gonna be on site at the same time? Are there gonna be any nurses or any?
The only other service provider will be a phlebotomist that will be on staff. And there will be no other services. There's no CAT scans, there's no MRIs, there's nothing else that's being done here. Everything else is done in other places.
Okay, and then are you gonna have someone at the front door greeting patients or answering phones?
That is the front desk person, one front desk person. That is correct.
So we have 8, 9, 10, so potentially 10 people at a given time. You're gonna have there at the clinic. And then how many parking spots do you have?
We have 15.
So then usually how these doctors' offices like to work is they overbook, right? So they'll double book, they'll triple book, and they have the patient waiting outside for 20, 30, maybe even an hour. So let's say we add another, 8, 9, 10. So let's say we have another 4 patients waiting outside. So we have about 14. And so you're saying that, so let's say 14 patients, 14 people at one time in the building, and let's say everybody has a car. So we'll have about 14 cars parked out of 15.
Well, remember, we have 3 buses that will be providing transportation as well.
So you got folks, okay, so you're gonna be picking up folks, okay.
Correct. Yeah, we have 3 buses that will be working with us.
Got it. And so those 3 buses are gonna be parking within the 15 parking spots?
We're gonna assign 2 parking spaces to the buses. They will be going in and out.
Okay, so out of the 15, then really, we're talking really 13 parking spots, right?
Correct.
And then to the west. So to the west, you have the Navarro, and then what's to the east? Is that a house? Tire
I
shop?
believe it's just, there's a commercial retail establishments there on that side.
All right, and then so you don't anticipate any type of overflow parking or anything like that, right?
We don't see a need for it. We're gonna push the public transportation, and with the 3 buses and the three examining rooms for each doctor, and each doctor just being part-time. Remember, they got to be at the other offices. The schedule should work very well. And I think that's why we have a recommendation of approval.
To the chair.
Yes, one second. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Real quick, Mr. Mestre, you, just to verify, you said that there's 4 employees that are gonna be there taking up 4 spaces plus the 2 buses, so that's already 6 parking spaces that are gonna be out of the 14? Or out of 15, I'm sorry?
The conditions that staff is requesting is that we assign 2 parking spaces to the doctors, 2 spaces to be assigned to the transportation vans, and 5 spaces remain open for the patients.
That's 9, but we still then have 6 more spaces because it's 15, so.
Correct.
What's the other 6 for?
Just for patients and staff, anybody else that wants to be there. But this is the
2 for doctor,
recommendation.
2 for van, and 5 for employees? Is that what you meant to say? Because I thought you said patients, so I guess you mean 5 for employees?
I'm reading off of the recommendation from Deborah.
I think they wrote it incorrectly. Because I think it would be 2 for doctor, 2 for van, and then you said 5 for patients, but no, I think that would be 5 for employees and then 6 for patients left over, right?
Let me read. 2 parking spaces to doctors, 2 parking spaces for the transportation vans, 5 spaces will remain open for patients. That's what we have here.
Then who are the 6?
Yeah,
Are those that, then the remaining 6 then are not for patients, they're for employees?
that can be for employees, correct? Although,
No,
okay,
no.
so wait,
That's
wait,
tight.
four
Kinda tight.
parking spaces for staff, 2 parking spaces to doctors, that's 6. 2 parking spaces for the transportation van, that's 8. And then 5 remain open for the patients. So that would be 13. We still have an extra 2.
No. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15.
Okay, so then.
I think we can't hear you now. I think we lost your audio.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I hear you, yeah.
I said, then the math does add up the way it is on the recommendation. Correct?
Say it again. Say the math you just said again.
4 parking spaces for staff. 2 parking spaces for the doctors. 2 parking spaces for the transportation vans. And 5 spaces for patients.
That's 13.
That's 13. We're missing 2.
Yeah, that's why.
Then 2 extra.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, it's 13. That's 13.
And then 2 are extra.
And 5 is for who? The last one is? Right. So then it wouldn't be 5, it would be 7.
Well, remember, there's also the front desk employee, medical assistant, phlebotomist, and customer service rep.
Yeah, this is a little bit tight. I have a feeling this is gonna be like blocking out the road as patients want to drive in and they're waiting and there isn't any parking, and then they might be parking in Navarro. A little bit tight for this location.
We're assuming that everybody's going to be there at the same time. Remember, the doctors are there part-time. So you may have one there, one not. The phlebotomist may be there part-time. We can ask Mr. Tariq.
What is this medical, what are they doing there from their,
One is a general doctor and the other is a dermatologist. And like I said, there's no exams other than phlebotomy. Other than those labs, there's nothing else being
Yeah.
done. No X-rays,
Yeah,
no
sorry.
scans, no eyes.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. So the idea is obviously different. It's more.
give me just 1 second,
telemedicine.
sir. If you could
Yeah.
say your name and address for the record before.
Yeah, Tarek Hawatme, 840 East 25th Street, Hialeah, Florida, 33013.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Monica. So it's more telemedicine. These doctors have a secondary location. This is not just a primary location. The idea is to get patients in and out. And like Cesar had mentioned, patients don't want to be waiting in a lobby for a long time. Patients want to go in, want to go out. This is meant for a working class, for a new, younger demographic that's aging in, baby boomers, 65 years old. Patients really want to go in, go out. Most of the time when the phlebotomist is there, the phlebotomist can draw blood without the physician having to be there, just like a Quest and a LabCorp type. So that's early on in the morning. That's not going to interfere with the patients that are doing their sessions in the afternoon. And the idea is really to get the patients moving in and out. I've been in this industry for a long time, managed the Pasteur and the Walmax medical centers, and always the greatest complaint was patient wait times, right? Nobody wants to be in the lobby for 3-4 hours. And that's why we've decided to do this separate from what other competitors are doing, right? Your Leons, your Pasteurs, your Walmaxes, your CareMaxes. Patients are waiting there for, 3 hours, and it's a big dissatisfier. So the idea is to get the member in and out. Only service that's going to be additional to it is phlebotomy, which is actually in the lobby, not even in the room. It's just an exam that they go in, draw blood. That's very quick, If you look at a LabCorp or a Quest, they're very small, tiny offices that see, hundreds of patients. Because it's in and out. It's quickly. It's just drawing blood, sending it to the lab, and working with the health payers. And one is a dermatologist, and one is a primary care doctor. It's a family business, and that's the idea behind it. And I've seen it that there's a big need for it, given our working population that's aging in, the baby boomers that are aging into 65 years old plus. So.
Do we have any council online? Mr. Mestre, are you done with your presentation or did you want to continue before?
No, that's it. That's the presentation. We'll be happy to answer
Okay.
any questions you may have.
Okay.
I-
Do we have any council discussion on this item?
I move.
Councilman Rodriguez, I believe, had made a motion to approve.
Also second.
So I have a motion from Councilman Tundidor for, you motioned. So motion to Councilman Rodriguez to approve,
Yes.
and you second. Councilman Tundidor seconds.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for January 25th, 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Easy 8.
First reading of proposed ordinance accepting all dedication of avenues, streets, roads, or other public ways, together with all existing and future planting of trees, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Property located at 631 East 40th Street, Hialeah, Florida.
I don't have anything on this item. Your Alice. Who's the person? Who's
The
This
owners
is
are
act-
Holding Incorporated, ma'am.
This is actually my item.
This is your account too?
Yes, Cesar Mester with law office at 8105 Northwest 155th Street. What this is a property on 40th Street that was already rezoned from R1 to R2. It's located behind the church and the school that's there where they park all the school buses. Maybe some of you will remember it. It was quite a while ago. One of the conditions for the approval was that we had to replat the property. It was platted originally back in like the 1930s, but then sometime, I believe in the 50s, they unplatted it so that they could save money on taxes. So when we came before the board for the rezoning, one of the conditions was established by Deborah was that we had to replat it. So now we've gone through the process of the T-plat, which was already approved by you and by the county. And now this is basically the final plat approval. It's been through engineering. It's been everywhere. So this is the last step for Hialeah. And then from here, we have to go back to the county for the final approval of the plat. And that incorporates setting the setbacks, the lines, the streets, everything that was done in the plat. So I don't know why you don't have any additional backup material, but that's what's going on here.
Okay, thank you. So
Yeah, motion.
I have a motion from Councilman Tundidor.
Second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Casals Munoz.
Ms. Casal Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for January 24th, 2023.
Perfect,
Thank
thank you. Let's move on to our land use item, LU1.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from industrial to commercial, property located at 7551 West Fourth Avenue, Hialeah, zoned M1, one family district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Do we have anyone here that would like to speak on the item or online? I have a motion from Councilwoman Casals Munoz.
Second.
I have a second from Vice President Garcia Robes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz? Motion carries. The item is approved.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night. We're on item LU2.
Recommendation of denial by the Planning and Zoning Board amending the future land use map from low-density residential to residential office, property located at 320 Northeast 8th Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Good evening.
Good evening, madam. My name is Frank De La Paz, 9361 Burr Road. before anybody moves to take it off table. Unless Mr. Carver that wasn't here before or somebody has some questions. If not, I will request that it be remaining table until we have a full council, since it is a recommendation for the now. I'll be needing 5 votes. And I don't mind if you all want to remove it from table and ask questions and continue the conversation and give Mr. Calvo the opportunity to become familiar with the item in case that he has any questions, but I will reserve the request to put it back on table for the full council. Up to you.
Yes, you're recognized.
We should, considering it came back with the agenda, we should wait for a full council.
In order to receive an approval, he needs 5. Five.
To overturn the denial.
No, we can do it next time.
Is that all right?
That's all right with me.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Table.
I have a motion to table by Councilman Tundidor. Do I have a second?
Yeah, remaining table, yes.
Right.
Till the next.
To the next.
So the
council
next meeting, January 24th, in order for him to have, for Mr. De La Paz to have a full council
January
present.
2024?
January 24th
Councilman Tundido was the motion. Who
was
made
the
second?
motion. I didn't see 2024. Yes,
Who made the second?
the second was Gonzalez Munoz.
I motioned it. Who seconded?
I second.
Did I motion?
I don't know.
No, Tundidor motion, 2 seconds.
Ms.
All right.
Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tunidor?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yep.
Ms. Casa Munoz? Ms. Garcia Roes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item remains on table until January 24th, 2023.
Thank
you much.
you.
Good night.
That's it, right? That is it, because now our
Yes.
meeting is adjourned at 9:29.